Hey guys, welcome back. This is Neon, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Star Wars. Today we're going to talk about whether or not Lucasfilm is just giving up on the sequel trilogy. This is really strange. We've done videos on this before, but it's becoming more and more apparent that Lucasfilm just doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot with the sequel trilogy in other media, and they're not promoting the sequel trilogy very much these days. I mean, do they internally, do they feel like the sequel trilogy has been a complete bust? I don't know. Maybe they're holding off to really push the sequel trilogy until Episode 9 comes out. But from what we can gather, it's beginning to look like they're kind of washing their hands of it and refocusing their efforts on the original trilogy and now even the prequel trilogy, because we have Clone Wars. We have Clone Wars coming back, and they also released a new short for the Galaxy of Adventures series, which is the anime-style Star Wars cartoons for kids. They've been doing so far they've been doing nothing but original trilogy. But today they released a Yoda versus Dooku one. What we're not seeing is a Rey versus Kylo Ren. Like, we're not seeing anything like that. So now they're even going back to the Clone Wars era for material. And, as we talked before, Marvel has a ton of comic books coming out this spring, going through the end of the summer, and they're all focusing on original trilogy characters. It's just a very unusual way to promote the sequel trilogy ending by relying so heavily on the original trilogy. It's almost as if someone in the marketing department, in the PR department, realized that people don't like the sequel trilogy as much as they like the original trilogy, and even Clone Wars, and they're really focusing on the positive aspects of Star Wars at this point. The ones, of course, the original trilogy, which is what most Star Wars fans are fans of. Regardless of where you fall in the prequels or the sequels, everybody loves the original trilogy, and that seems to be where they're going with it. Very interesting, but here we go. This is coming from IO9, which is part of Gizmodo, and I gotta wonder how long IO9 is going to be around, because Gizmodo is in trouble. They're looking for a buyer, and if the guy who buys Gizmodo is the same guy who bought Gawker, look for a radical shift in editorial tone. They're not going to have a lot of politics, I don't think, at IO9, if they even survive the cut. I mean, IO9 doesn't even have its own unique URL. It piggybacks off of Gizmodo. So we'll see how long they last. Anyway, for now, we will read this story coming from IO9. These Star Wars shorts are making a mighty fine case for animated versions of the films. You thought that the Galaxy of Adventures would peak at turning Darth Vader's Rogue One massacre into a kids' animated short? No, it didn't. Lucasfilm Star Wars Kids Initiative has so far been a cool way to introduce not just the world of the galaxy far, far away to young audiences, but through ancillary material beyond those flashy shorts, encouraging critical thinking and analysis at a young age. That's reading entirely too much into it. It's reading entirely too much into it. The latter is always a noble goal, but the former is making the non-thinking part of my brain shriek with delight at the wild reimaginings of the Skywalker saga's action sequences. Maybe you should see somebody about that. That doesn't sound healthy. Not all the Galaxy of Adventure shorts are like this, but two recently released ones depicting Yoda's battle with Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones and Vader and Luke's duel on Bespin that simply focus on the action of the movie's fight scenes are, well, really bloody cool. Actually, I will give him that. I did watch these shorts before recording the video, and they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. I haven't been a huge fan of Galaxy of Adventures, but these are very, very much a step up, I think, from the first couple of shorts that they released. And yeah, the Luke versus Vader is very over the top, very anime-esque, So, again, this is really an interesting way to promote, Episode 9, by focusing on the original trilogy. And again, I think that we will see a lot more. We will see a lot more promotion for the sequel stuff, as we get closer to Episode 9. But you look at the toy shelves now. They couldn't move sequel trilogy toys to save their lives. I mean, there's still Solo stuff and Last Jedi stuff rotting on toy shelves where we live. But they brought out the figures for Galaxy of Adventures And they come in these little tubes, and I have it out. If you go out to our Instagram, you can see it. They come in these little tubes with a comic book, and they're $10, which I think is insanely high for a Star Wars figure. But they're kind of the limited articulation, like the old Kenner style figures, and they're actually pretty cool. They're actually pretty cool. If I were still collecting Star Wars, you know, I probably would skip on the Solo stuff and skip on, you know, skip out on the Last Jedi. But I might actually pick up those Galaxy of Adventures figures just because they look cool and they look cool displayed in the shelf. So, you know, I'm starting to wonder, is Lucasfilm starting to get it? You know, did Disney have to intervene and say, hey guys, you know, this is not a good look. This is not working. People don't like this. What works? What's marketable? And it's the original trilogy and Clone Wars. And likewise, you know, talking about The Mandalorian, there's been some talk about, I was not excited about The Mandalorian. I'm still on the fence about The Mandalorian, but they're really playing up original trilogy with it. I mean, they had some photos the other week of R5-D4. He's going to be in it. I mean, I guarantee you Boba Fett will probably be in this somehow, as it takes place between episodes 3 and 4, even if we get a, you know, 20-something Boba Fett. And, you know, they're talking about, you know, to Taika Waititi, who directed Thor Ragnarok, and they said, you know, will this episode of The Mandalorian that you're doing be jokey like your other stuff? And he said no. He said it's very different from Marvel. He said that they want to do something that feels like the original trilogy. So again, they're going back to what works. You know, maybe you know, I hate to be overly optimistic. I'm trying not to be overly optimistic, but maybe it's starting to sink in that people are not into the sequel trilogy, and whatever momentum the sequel trilogy had, at least half of the fan base was completely soured on the whole thing with episode 8, and not even episode 8 itself, I mean, which was admittedly pretty terrible as far as I'm concerned, but the way that the fans were treated with episode 8. So it just looks to me like they're trying to go back to the original. Again, if you're trying to raise up you know, a new generation of Star Wars fans, you know, and they've got Star Wars kids out here, and what you're showing almost exclusively all original trilogy stuff. You know, there's nothing here from the sequel trilogy. I'm not saying that they're not working on it, but clearly they're not pushing it. Now they're kind of branching out into the cooler parts of the prequels, into the Clone Wars saga. It'd be interesting to see if they actually went back and did some Clone Wars cartoon segments from the animated series in sort of this anime style. That would be kind of cool. But yeah, they're not touching the sequel trilogy. It's like they know it's, at this point, it's toxic. It's going to be really interesting to see how Star Wars Celebration goes this year. If they're going to, you know, obviously I think we'll see a trailer for episode 9, but they're relying heavily on nostalgia. You know, they know the fans did not like The Last Jedi. They know it's been divisive, and Disney also knows they need to make money. They need people to love Star Wars, so they're trying to focus on the parts of Star Wars that were more well loved than The Last Jedi. Let's put it that way. But it seems like they're just kind of, I don't know. I just, you know, reading the tea leaves, and maybe I'm reading a lot more into it. It just seems like they're kind of trying to get people to focus on the positive aspects of Star Wars, which is a smart business move. It is like, hey, yeah, let's forget about The Last Jedi and let's go back and show you guys this really cool stuff. This is why you fell in love with Star Wars. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with all of this in episode 9. I mean, personally, I think episode 9 has written itself. It's been written into a corner. Like, I don't know where they can go from here. I don't think they can give a satisfying conclusion to the entire Star Wars saga in one movie, in the state that the franchise is in right now, where they basically killed everybody off, and the new characters are so bland that nobody gives a shit. I mean, I don't know. You know, it'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off. I'm not really expecting a lot. I think personally, and I've said this before, I think that probably we'll just kind of get through episode 9 and then focus on whatever's next for Star Wars after that. But which really sucks. I mean, this is the way that we end the saga. This is the way we end the saga, on a down note, you know. I don't know. So we will see what happens. But please subscribe to Clownfish TV for more pop culture news, views, gaming videos, rants, and more. We'll keep you updated on Star Wars stuff of interest. We're not a Star Wars channel, mostly because we're kind of bored of it now. But this is an interesting development to see them go back to the original trilogy as much as they are. All right, guys, talk later. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.